Of course, throughout the course of this healthcare crisis, the recessions that we've seen around the world, we continue to talk about the regression when it comes to progress made by women in the workplace. To what extent is it alarming to you that there hasn't been specific targeted policies that have been part of this campaign?
Yeah, the National Council of Women of New Zealand really expected a far more overt reference to the gendered outcomes of the COVID experience in New Zealand. By and large, the people that are now newly not within work are women. And so we've been intrigued that the policy advice that has gone to government hasn't included an overt gendered response. And we've asked and advocated for that back to our Minister for Women, that needed to be considered within the next set of budget bids.
I think if you speak to people outside of New Zealand, there is a perception, of course, with Prime Minister Ardern at the helm, that there aren't as many gender issues, equality issues in the country. Is that a reality, or does there need to be more policy work to be done by the new government, even if it is a continuity government?
It's an interesting perception, and we're glad that people are looking towards New Zealand for some inspiration about how to transform their leadership. We're so glad to have Minister Ardern in place, a young woman who rose very quickly through the ranks of her party. However, what we press for is more progress beyond leadership. And what we've noticed is that when leadership is led by women, it tends to support that senior leadership roles across government become filled by more women. However, the areas that still tend to be neglected is in the other professions sitting outside the public purse. So what we're looking for is our women that are still being pushed into, through gendered expectations, into unpaid work such as childcare, such as elder care, that they are given more opportunity into places where wage growth is absolutely happening within New Zealand. So we need to sort of eradicate some of the gender stereotypes that still exist within New Zealand. We're not immune to that. We still have a high expectation of what we think a male should behave like and what a female should behave like. And unfortunately, that's also linked to what we value and we don't value. So National Council of Women really supports that education pathways are open to all genders so that we can see our women moving into those more economically productive and valuable resource sectors. We'd also like to see more infrastructure and put into the care of our people that need it. So we would like to see more infrastructure and consideration given to childcare, to elder care, so that it was recognised for the value that it does bring to our communities. So we're not immune to what the rest of the globe is.
In that regard, is there such a thing as perhaps reluctance from political candidates, female political candidates, to portray themselves as the female candidate, that perhaps this effort in not branding themselves as a female leader seeking a position, they actually reject or not focus so much on some of those policies that are actually needed?
Good. It's a really good point, and it's a fine line for politicians to be able to fully step into the role as themselves, because the political arena can be so combative and abrasive. And again, speaking to those gendered assumptions and the values that we place on what it is to be feminine and what it is to be masculine, they are absolutely expressed and fully articulated within the political arena in New Zealand. You need to have a sense of being able to handle bully boy type tactics that can happen within Parliament. And so that means that sometimes politics isn't a place where women want to see themselves, because they don't want to be made vulnerable in that way. So we do have some work to do about respectful workplaces, including within government.
How much progress have you seen in New Zealand under Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, whether it's in the government or in the private sector?
We've seen it within leadership roles. So there's a real good look at the public and private sector and getting our governance boards to 50% female representation. And that's fantastic. However, it's still just dipping our toes in the water. So while our leadership and our strategic direction can be well balanced, it needs to be fully expressed throughout the machine of government and through private sector into sort of the decision making that they undertake for their businesses. That's still a place we have to work.